Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Caleb, and it's pretty well understood that a February Direct is on the way, and I think most people agree it's probably going to be on the 7th, so I basically decided to make a predictions video, and what I did was I took all the information we currently know about the current games, and then I looked at previous Directs for February, and looked at, the order of announcements and what type of games are announced, and of course I also went back and saw certain dates for things, so I try to fill out the months. But also worth noting, I don't think this is going to be the last Direct this year. I think they're still going to get one in June, probably not September, but I think we are going to get some more announcements after this that aren't in this Direct. So in case you're wondering why there's some months missing or whatever, that's the reason. But anyway, moving on. So the first thing that I think they're probably going to open up with is probably going to be Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. Now, this game has been rumored to exist for a while now, because in the data mine of the latest Fire Emblem game, Fire Emblem Engage, it basically says the codename is FE19, and of course Three Houses was FE17. So basically, it's like, where is Fire Emblem 18? And the rumor is it's Genealogy of the Holy War, which is a remake of the Super Famicom game. So I think this makes sense. There's a missing game somewhere, so we should probably expect it. And the idea was that this game has been done for a while, so them sitting on it, they could just pretty much release it any time they want. I think this game makes sense for a May release. It's the same amount of time between Fire Emblem Echo's announcement and release, which was 4 months, or 3 months I think, because it was announced in January and then released in April. So this time it's announced in February and released in May. So I think it's a pretty good spot for it, May 17th. The next thing I think they're going to show is probably going to be Princess Peach Showtime. And of course, we do know quite a bit about this game. We've seen multiple trailers. We have release date, but they haven't really shown much about what the game actually is, like the structure of the game. A lot of people think it might be like Luigi's Mansion 3, how there's like different levels and things, and there's like a different gimmick per level, which explains the different costumes. So I think that's probably the case, but I think we do need a trailer, a proper trailer that actually explains what the game is, what's going on. The next thing I think they'll probably announce is Mario Sports. So the last time we got a Mario Sports game would be Mario Strikers, which was a little while ago. And of course, Camelot should be ready with their new game. I think they are overdue a year now, because it's usually a 3-year cycle from what I understand. But this year it would be 4 years. So they're kind of overdue. However, I think it actually makes sense 4 years, because when they release a Mario Sports game, usually they have like a DLC period where they add characters to the game. But because I think this is going to be the last full year of Switch, they're probably just going to release everything at once. Maybe have like one update later, but they pretty much just needed to have the extra time to make the characters now, because there's not really going to be time to release it later. The next thing, by the way, I think that's going to be June 21st. The next thing I think is going to be Splatoon 3. Of course, we do have a release date now for Side Order, but they didn't show anything in that latest trailer. It's just basically telling us that it exists and that the release date is February 22nd. I think we're going to get a proper trailer here explaining what's going on, the plot, the story, the type of levels you can expect. But of course, we kind of know what to expect, sort of, with Octo Expansion, so this kind of makes sense. The next thing I think they'll show is Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door. Now, because they showed the year for this just being 2024, and Luigi's Mansion 2 was shown to be summer, you would think that this would come out after. However, I think that the game's probably done, so it doesn't really matter, and they haven't decided anything. Plus, I feel like Paper Mario, the Origami King, released in July, so I think July 19th is a good spot for this game here. The next thing I think they'll probably announce is something for April 26th, because usually they like to do a game in late April. In this case, I just put down Tomodachi Life because it was a popular 3DS game. However, I think it probably could be something else. It could be another Pokemon spin-off, maybe, because we also got Pokemon Snap in April. Additionally, it could also be something like Nintendogs, or maybe even Ring Fit 2. But basically, some sort of casual-ish game in the late April period, I think makes sense. Tomodachi Life I just put because my friend Bo thinks that's a good pick, and I agree. But it could be basically any casual type of game. The next thing I think is going to be Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Now, I think there's going to be DLC, sort of. It's basically going to be a content update, like a free update, sort of like what they did with Metroid Dread after the game came out. I think they'll probably have like some bonus levels or something, or maybe like some special abilities that they'll add. in a content update that'll be shadow dropped, but also I think they'll probably have, they'll say, oh, there's also more stuff coming later in like April, let's just say. So I think that's probably what they're gonna do, because all the 2D Mario games since New Super Mario Bros. U, since you have New Super Mario Bros. 2, New Super Mario Bros. U, Super Mario Maker, and Super Mario Maker 2 have all had DLC or updates of some kind. So Mario Wonder, I don't really see why that would be an exception, especially considering how well this game sold. But it could just be no DLC, because I don't think Pikmin 4 is going to get DLC, because this is pretty late in the game, but I think just based on precedent, Mario Wonder should get DLC or some sort of update. The next thing I think they'll show is just a quick little teaser for Mario vs. Donkey Kong. Of course, we've seen quite a bit about this game. We pretty much know what to expect. Maybe they'll drop a demo or whatever, but just a little reminder that the game's coming out very soon, February 16th, which I think is like a week, would be a little bit more than a week after this Direct. And then the next thing I think they'll show is actually an update for Nintendo Switch Online. They usually have updates for Switch Online, because the last 4 February, 3 of them had it, and the last 2 also had it. So I think what they're going to do this time is, of course, last time they had Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. This time, I think they'll just focus on a game, and one game in particular. I think they'll do Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, and Four Swords. Because, first of all, that game is a pretty big deal, because it's like a big multiplayer thing, and of course, people would enjoy it very much, because A, it's Zelda, and B, it's multiplayer, and of course, Switch Online, Game Boy Advance would allow for online play, finally, for this game. But also, I think one game is kind of good because it's been slowing down a bit, and Switch 2 is gearing up, so I don't really think they need to focus that much on these retro systems. But so having one game that's like a pretty good game would probably be a good fit, and of course this would be shadow dropped like basically all the other Switch Online updates. The next thing I think I'll show is going to be Luigi's Mansion 2, and I think this is going to be a late summer game. Of course, they did say summer last year, but I think probably September makes sense. Of course, June, like I said, already has Mario Sports. July has Paper Mario. August, they usually don't really have anything in August, except for maybe like the 30th. But I think it just makes more sense to release this in September, because that's usually what they do. Like I said, August is usually empty. So just a little update, maybe show how the game's progressing. Maybe we'll see the graphics look a little bit better compared to last year. And of course, yeah, so September 13th, I think that's a pretty good time. I think that's also the anniversary of Super Mario Brothers. Not that it really matters, because this is not like a mainline Mario game, but regardless, it's sort of like an anniversary game in some way. The next thing I think they're going to shadow drop Metroid Prime 2 and 3. And I don't think this is going to be a remaster, just like how Metroid Prime 1 was remastered. I think these are just going to be ports, just like how Pikmin 1 and 2 were ports. So I think that's probably the best thing, because I think they're going to want to have these games out on the Switch before Prime 4 comes out, because then they'll have the entire series. And obviously it doesn't need the entire series, but just porting these games would be so relatively easy that they might as well, especially considering that if the Metroid Prime 4 is called Metroid Prime 4 something, then people might think, okay, well, how do I play all these games? Here's the first one, but what about the other two, right? So having those two games shadow dropped, I think, makes perfect sense. And of course, they'll probably do a physical copy, because they did Pikmin 1 and 2, and of course Metroid I feel like would make sense, especially if it's 2 games. And the final thing I think they're going to show is I think they're going to show a teaser for Metroid Prime 4. Finally, yes, of course. And I think it's going to be dated for October 2024, not a specific date, because what I think they're going to do is it's just going to be a teaser for now, and then in June they'll go more in depth about the game and give it a release date. So that's basically my list. They're, like I said, and of course, something like a Zelda game. There's usually a Zelda game every year, but I think that would probably be announced in the June Direct, assuming there's a June Direct, and that would probably be maybe like early September, or maybe like I said, the very end of August. Could be like a good like Wind Waker or Twilight Princess release. I don't think they're gonna do both, but that's a discussion for another day. We're talking about the February Direct. So, like I said, this is what I think. Metroid Prime 4 closing it, Fire Emblem Genealogy opening it. Let me know what you guys think. Think I'm missing something? Do you think one of these shouldn't even exist? Or do you think maybe it's a little bit light, or whatever? Or do you think maybe there's not even going to be a Direct? It's possible, technically. But, yeah, that's basically it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. How would you do it? And I'll see you guys later. Peace.